I've got to.
By the way, you're live, Nikhil.
I'm live. Okay, cool.
You are live. And welcome to the decision table, where we literally look at the problem and go and become aware around that, take ownership on that, and then take action and go, how or what can we do, or what does it mean for me to be able to narrow that gap from problem to solution. So welcome to the decision table. It's exciting to have you here. Where are you based right now?
So I'm in Sydney. I'm based in beautiful Sydney.
Yep.
Neighbour of yours.
And you're from Shot of Copy. What exactly is Shot of Copy?
Shot of Copy is basically, at the moment, it's now sales and marketing strategy. Its first incarnation was really around copywriting and direct response marketing. So we used to write the sales pages, the newsletters, the advertising for people for business owners to make, to attract more clients.
Awesome, love it. All right, I actually only just did a decision table. So for all those that are listening and a part of it through the groups and on my profile, here's some double whammy for today. Now, Nikhil, how long have you got to have a bit of a conversation around today? What's your time frame so that we
about 20 minutes.
That? 20 minutes, okay, on the clock. I am literally going to set that on my clock so I can sort of, Ethan over in the corner says he's already on it.
Oh, awesome.
As they say in the States, on it. There we go. All right. We're going to have some fun. We're also going to have some fun because I get to draw on this one as well. So we are figuring out how to do that. Our topic is the 3 levels of leadership. And if you think about the 3 levels, and you know what those levels are, that's individual, community, and global. What is your thinking just when you hear 3 levels, those 3 things? How where do you go with that?
The way I see it is it's a bit like a concentric circle, right? So you've got at the center is you. Then the impact is, the people around you, your community, your family, your business as well could count in that too. And then the greater circle is the wider community, the global community. That's how it immediately just visualizes for me.
And that's exactly what it is for me, right?
Yeah.
Is this. Is that what you mean? Individual.
That's it. That's it, yeah. The top of that.
There we go.
The top part's not on.
We'll put that there. Good. We'll get there. Ooh, look. Even turn it around, dude. Look at that. Individual, community, global. Love it. And so if we think about individual and we think of leadership and that level, what does that mean? I know for me, that means ownership. Like this whole thing is about ownership. Like it's a direct thing, right? Is ownership.
Yeah.
So if you were using the lens of ownership for individual leadership, what would that mean for you as a leader? How would you interpret that?
So the first thing I look at is that what you're doing on an individual scale has that. I mean, I mentioned the ripple effect, right, or the concentric circles, but I think it is like a ripple because the greater you show up for, in your own personal life and in your family life, right, that is going to have that ripple, that butterfly effect for everything else that you do as well. Like how you show up in one area is how you're then going to be impacting every other area. So I look at this, my thinking is that if you can do the best for yourself as an individual, you'll be then able to take your best into the community and then into that global sphere as well.
So for me, what you're saying, and this is where I like watching it, this is like the energy.
Yeah. Energy is a great word.
Which I know you love energy. You love that kind of stuff, right? So
totally.
The ripple is energy in which you lead, right? So if we think of leadership as how do we lead, right? 3 levels of how we lead. You can't see that on there. It's over there. I'm going to put it back here because I'm going to actually write. Look at that. I'm going to write it here so you can see it. So how do we lead? So ownership as an individual. How do you take ownership as a community? What does that look like in what you're thinking?
That's a good question. So how do you take ownership as a community? Right.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to, wow. It does come down to...
Can I put a 2-sentence work while you're thinking?
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. That doesn't mean don't stop thinking and don't come up with it, but I'm just going to give you a thought. To me, one of the ways we do that is through collaboration.
That's exactly the word I was thinking of. Exactly what I was thinking of. Because I think that's what it needs. It needs individuals who are leading themselves to then collaborate so they can propel that next level, that next circle, that community level, you know. It takes a community of leaders to lead the community.
Okay, so if we go back to this and we go as a community, for us to take ownership, that's collaboration. What as an individual? What's that word?
For me, I feel it's responsibility.
Oh, nice. Responsibility.
Yeah.
How's responsibility different to ownership? Let's see. Responsibility. Something like that. How's that different to ownership? Responsibility.
I see the similarities for it. So let me just put that there. There's definitely the similarities. The way I look at responsibility is that responsibility is not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not about blame or it's not about fault. You know, your responsibility is literally that. You know, it is ownership in many ways, but I just see it as at a different layer. Do you know what I mean? So if I was to distinguish it, I see responsibility as being very personal, whereas ownership as being a broader thing. You know, it's more encompassing.
And yet in this term, we're using ownership as an individual. We're saying, how do we take ownership as an individual? I think ownership is the result that you're bringing. So for me, that's the culture I'm going to bring, right? Or build. When I build a culture within what I'm doing, that's like values, that's like thinking, that's like solutions that I'm bringing to the table, that's everything that I do. My outcomes are going to be the culture I build. That's me as an individual. And here's the thing, culture for me comes across here as well, right? So we talk about this energy. This is also the culture, because here's the thing with culture. Is culture goes in as an individual, it comes out as a community, it is also what you build as a global.
Yeah, totally. Wow, that's really true. I never saw that before. Wow.
Yeah.
Very
so
powerful.
and so I would even bring that culture back into more of an individual thing. As an individual, human. So this is humanity.
Yeah.
Me.
So
me as a human.
Can I ask you a question?
So just here's the thing. Me as a human, I have a responsibility as an individual to take ownership.
Yeah.
Yep. For it. What were you going to say?
So I was going to ask you, so at an individual level, how would you distinguish between individual culture and mindset?
So mindset is a part of the culture. So if you think of it, your mindset are your values, your thinking, your mindset in which you are going to be motivated, driven. It brings the change which comes from the culture you build or create, right? So for me, what was the question again?
How do you distinguish between culture and mindset?
Yeah. So for me, mindset is a part of culture.
Subcircle, yeah.
I always look at things as a broad, like what is the top layer?
Yeah.
And for me, culture is a top layer, a variable of that layer, and down layers, one of them is mindset.
Mm.
Yeah. So if we
Yeah.
thought of that, part of, I don't want to confuse that there. Whoops. Let me not knock everything off over here. If we think of culture, what I'm saying here is culture is the ultimate part of it. And
Yeah.
we're saying a sub of that is mindset.
Mindset, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where
So
do you
yes,
see?
definitely a part of it, but it's a sub.
So in this diagram, this pattern that
Yeah.
we got here, where would you place family?
Say that again. Where would you place?
Where would you place family? Would that be more individual? Would that be more community? Or
Great. So now you're giving us a value. In
yeah.
other words, another sub of a culture, right, is a value, your value.
Oh, okay.
What value? And another one, which is priority, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are subs. They come under culture, but here's the thing. Remember where culture is? It's the energy, it's the thing that goes throughout. So it's got to start with an individual. This is your starting point, right?
Right.
You.
Yeah.
That's your starting point. It's got to start with the individual. What are your values around family? What are your priorities when it comes to family? What's your thinking that is your non-negotiables when it comes to family? Then how are you going to role model that out into the community? What does that mean when you're with the community? Here's one of the things. If you think of leadership, when we come up with what is valuable to us, or we put values to or prioritize in our leadership, that's an individual culture value, culture thinking, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. When we bring it out into the community, just because it's your value, just because it's your priority, when it comes to community, it does not necessarily mean it's the community's priority or value.
Yeah.
But as a leader, this is where it's important that if it's priority and value, it's value based for you, then that's a non-negotiable. You are just going to be able to be doing that and standing and representing that when you're with a community. Here's the thing. Any decision made here has this ripple effect. And in my case, I always think of it more like a thing like this, right?
Yeah.
And so then it goes into global. And so your decisions as an individual is affecting your community or the community you're a part of. But here's the thing. Whatever your community is doing is also affecting what's happening in the global space.
Absolutely.
May think that these big global issues, these big problems that are happening across the globe are so big, I would love to be able to be part of that change, but I can't do that. No, that's not true, because change, and this is another one of these things that come out of here, change begins with who?
The individual.
The individual.
Yeah.
Change begins with community. Change happens at the global level because we've got those things happening. Yeah?
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's really
Which
powerful.
is why I think it's so important that we've got these levels of leadership where we lead as an individual in our community. So community might mean in your business, your company, your organization.
Mm-hmm.
It might mean maybe you're involved with a community project and it's that. It might mean your community as in your tribe, your family, your culture in which you're a part of, your environment, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, how does that then affect the global?
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I love that part. You know, you've got those waves coming out, the ownership, the culture, and the change, all starts at the individual level, and I think that's just very, very powerful. Especially that last point you were making about change. I love it when you were saying that, there's people out there saying, I wish I could make this impact on this global scale. But it starts with the self. It starts with making the change with you, right?
Yeah.
And then it's just going to spiral out. I love that. So that was really, really cool.
Change is what I call action, right? So we've got to start as the individual going, well, this is also where awareness starts. And then awareness across again. It's another one of these, right? Awareness.
Mm.
In other words, we don't know what we don't know until we know it. And then we've got to take ownership.
That's right.
And then from that ownership, we've got to then bring change. And the change has to start here and come into community and then the global, right?
Yep.
Okay, so if you know this is true and you're going, yes, 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 which you are, right?
I am.
So great. How will this, from what you've seen right now, how are you going to change what you're doing right now in the workplace?
Oh, that's really interesting.
See, because remember, we brought awareness. So now from this, I've created an awareness. We've had a conversation around it. Yeah. We're now going, well, what are you going to own? Like, how does that work for you? Ownership of this. And then as your community, the culture you're building, and then how is this going to bring change as a global thing as well, right?
Yeah, so
as an individual, community, global.
I love the question you asked, because it's really pushing my boundaries. Really, it's pushing my brain to think beyond, right? And I love that. I love that sort of challenge. So one of the things, the conversation we've had before is that fatherhood is just such a big privilege for me. And that's something that I'm just very, very passionate about. Especially being a single father myself, and I'd love to see more and more people, stand up and be fathers who can lead, as opposed to feeling like they're relegated into the background or feeling like they don't have a part to play. I do that on a daily basis, but I feel the calling myself to take that out into the greater community. So I feel I stand up as a father. I feel I'm
So you're saying, as an individual, the culture that you're created or you're creating or is priority, so go back to the sub, priority or one of your values is fatherhood and being a great father. This is a non-negotiable to you. And then you're saying, so I own that as an individual. Now I want to know, how am I creating that in the culture that I'm building within the community?
Correct. Exactly that.
So tell me, how are you doing that? How do you stand? How do you show that? How do you role model that in your workplace?
Well,
because here's the thing, right? So can I just say something? Here's the thing with the community and role modeling it and what you do is that is how people learn that is even valid, that's a good value to have, that's I can see why that's priority to you, Nikhil. Now I need to have that in my own world, right?
Yeah. So look, the way I'm doing it, I obviously put family first is one of those values that I take. And I know it sounds a little bit cliche, but I actually do. Like, I literally put my family in the center and then build everything around that. Yeah. So when it comes to school pickups, school drop-offs and things like that, I want to be present, and people see that, right? People see that. Even my own family do that. So that's some of the things I'm doing, is I'm going out there to be active as a father, to pick up my daughter, to spend that extra time with her. We have, every week we have a daddy-daughter date, which is something that we have. It's sacrosanct. It's a non-negotiable. Yeah. And every day we make sure that we spend at least a couple of hours together, whether we're cooking together, whether we're sitting down and drawing together, whether we're playing games together. Like, we have that time, that bonding time. Which, I feel it's easy for me to say, hey, let me just focus on work. Let me just focus on my business, and then let my kid just play on, on the Xbox or play on the iPad or whatever it is. But why am I doing all of this? Why am I working like this? It's because ultimately I want to be able to spend more time with her. I want to be able to, nurture her and give her the values that I was brought up with, and even the values that I didn't receive myself. I want to make sure that she got what I didn't get as a child, right?
Yeah.
And the only way for me to actually do that is saying, okay, well, let's build life around that core value for me. And so that's really what I do. right? And I demonstrate that. Like when people say, "Hey, can you do this?" and I'm just like, "I'm sorry, look, this is the time I've set aside for my daughter, or this is the time I've got school pickup. I can work around that, but I can't work in these periods." So that type of thing I do. So that's how I'm actually living it, and people see that, and I know that people see that because I get a lot of comments around the fact that, wow, you're always there to pick up, your daughter from school. You're always there, to drop her off. Don't you ever want to just give that to someone else to do so you can focus more on business? I've had people say to me, you should put her into after school care so that you can, hustle more and do more work. And I'm like, but that's really not why I created my business, That's not why I'm doing what I'm doing. If I wanted to do that, then I might as well work for somebody else or get a corporate job or something like that. It just doesn't make sense to me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Great. So that's how you model it in what you do and how you have created or creating the model of what you see as important for you as a leader, right? Yeah. So then if you think about that, what is that then showing on the global space?
What is that showing on the global space? I don't actually know, to be honest, off the top of my head.
So here's some thoughts. No, that's fine. But here's some thoughts. What if more people were doing that and we're prioritizing family first before workplace or professional or, like it was really a cool thing to stand strong as a dad or a mom as a leader in the workplace. In other words, people knew that was priority. Here's one of the reasons I went nomadic was because I wanted my kids on the road with me. I never, ever, ever wanted to have kids and then have them separate to my world. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what I chose to do. Why? Because I believe that it brings change by bringing the kids on the road. They learn from it. Yeah. We grow together. We're a part of our world together. We're working through things. We make decisions together. So it was priority, right? Even though it wasn't normal to be nomadic and to take your kids and to literally live 24/7 with your kids nonstop, right?
Yeah, I totally get it.
Okay, so for some reason my screen has just gone off. So what? All right, well, that's because we already had been on there, and I'm not sure how to get that back on right now. That's okay, but at least if you remember that, hopefully people saw that model and saw that pattern that we were creating there.
Yeah.
But my screen has gone blank because I was too idle while I was doing that on another platform. That's what's happened.
Because I'm kind of at the top of my time too. So
you are. So that 20 minutes is up. All right. So from what we've done today, we've got what I believe is 3 levels of leadership. We've got individual, we've got community, we've got global. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's different ways in which we bring that energy around us and pull that across, and it's through all 3 of those levels, which is awareness, ownership, and change. And it starts with individual before you can work on community and before it becomes global, because you've got to own it. First you've got to be aware of what you don't know, and then go, I know it now. And then you've got to own it. And then that's when you own it is when the change can happen and opportunity to change. All right. So what have you taken from today and our time here?
The ripple effects, the energy, the culture, the awareness, like all of that was quite good. I love that side of things. And I love how that it's not just 3 disjointed circles, like in 3 separate layers, but they're actually all a spiral actually. And that, hey, you do how you act on the individual will actually have a follow through and ultimately hit on the global scale. So if you want to make that change, yes, you've got to start with yourself, but know that by starting with yourself, you are already making that change.
Yeah. I think what makes this, what we've got from here for me, what makes it really clear is that clarity of that it's so doable, because it's like, sometimes when I hear people go, oh, well, global issues are just so big, I don't even know where to start. Well, it starts with me. It starts with me then building this community, then it's the global stuff that comes from it. So for me, it just goes, yeah, that makes it so clear to why I think it's not too crazy to think that we can make changes across the globe as a leadership, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I love it.
All right, so if anyone wants to get hold of you or connect with you, how do they do that?
They could send me an email, nikhil@shotofcopy.com. They can message me on Facebook, Nikhil Rughani. Those are two really, really good ways to do that.
Awesome.
And I think they'll be able to get a hold of me without any issues. Or they can look me up on Voxer if they use Voxer.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Is there any parting words you want to leave at the decision table today?
Any parting words? Yeah, I just want to talk about this quote from Gandhi. Basically, when we're talking about wanting to make an impact and we're wanting to, make a shift on the global level, I think Gandhi was very clear when he said, "Be the change that you want to see." And I think that's what I'd like to leave you guys with today.
And the change you want to see is fatherhood. What
change I want to see is more fathers stepping up. That's what I'd like to see. More fathers stepping up, and not relegating the job of parenthood to a mother.
Beautiful.
It's
beautiful. Love that.
a collaboration, but fathers definitely have a role to play in the lives of their kids.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for the conversation today on the decision table. I love it when we can just, have more pieces of the puzzle so that we can make better decisions at the decision table and really look at how can we close the gap from problem to solution. So thank you and appreciate you.
Awesome. Take care.
And you too.